Friends, denizens of the internet, hello and welcome back to another exciting video over here today at LostTimeGaming. Today we're checking out something special, mostly because I had to do some computer cleaning and install some new hardware today, so I don't have time for a Fatal Frame 3 episode, but I figured I didn't want to do nothing, and I wasn't feeling a classic one-shot, so I figured we'd do something different. This is Last Epoch. If you've never heard of Last Epoch, it's a game much in the stylization of Diablo and Path of Exile and Grim Dawn and all those sorts of fun, awesome games. Now, we're not really going to be doing a series of this. I mean, maybe down the road, but for the time being, we're not really going to be worrying about a series for this game. I just want to get something out for today so we didn't have nothing. So, that being said, this is Last Epoch. This is a ARPG, I believe is the correct subgenre of video games for this. Excuse me. And it's a lot of fun. You basically just you kill the crap out of hordes of monsters, and you get loot, and you kill the crap out of more hordes of monsters. You have fun skills that do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it looks great, and monsters go zap. Because my character is kind of centered around electricity. You can see I have a little cast lightning. I've got a ray of lightning, which then turns into the special beam cannon after a few seconds. I have a shield here. We get a lightning shield, which kills people that attack me. And we have a mana recharge move, and also one of these. Now it kind of looks like the lightning bolt, but I assure you, it's an orb that then turns into more lightning bolts. It's great. It's just electrocuting giant horseshoe crabs. I mean, what else could somebody ask for? And I'm actually using a controller with this right now, because this is the very divisive thing amongst ARPGs is whether or not they care enough to put controller usability into a game. Usually the answer is no, they don't care. And that angers me, because this is one of those games that really was meant for a controller. Very rarely does it actually get controller support, but... oh, come on, you're killing me. Now, this is mostly because I have on an item that constantly, whenever my mana hits full, the little blue orb on the bottom right there, it converts it into a temporary shield and then takes all my mana. So it's constantly cycling up to full and then back to nothing. Which seems like it'd be a real pain, but it means I constantly have shields going on, so it's not super bad. Because as I'm a squishy caster class, I have the propensity to die randomly without cause or justification. And I just go, wait, why am I dead? What happened? But, you know, these things do happen, and there's no control over them. Also, I forgot to mention this at the start, this is very important. This game is still in beta / early access. You know, obviously it's not finished yet, and there go, you know, any number of things could change between now and the official release. I always forget to do that when playing something that's not currently full release status yet, because that is important to know. You never want to buy something and be like, hey, this isn't what I saw so-and-so play the other day, and I want my money back. And yeah, you have to be aware that things are not always as they seem. But one of the things I truly like about this game, because I played a lot of ARPGs, as I said, I've played all the Diablos except Diablo 4, haven't touched that yet. Really kind of have beef with Diablo at this point, because I've been playing it since Diablo 1, and I don't like what they've done with the series over the years. Not that like they make bad games, but there's not enough time in a short episode like this to kind of air all my grievances about what Blizzard does with the Diablo series. But one of the things I do like about this game that makes it kind of stand above its superiors is that you see down in the bottom middle there are my skills, you know, the X, B, the right button, the left trigger, and the right trigger. Now, I can bring those up, and each one of these has its own talent tree. And I think that's just awesome. I remember one of the things I strongly disliked about Diablo 3 was that the skills were meaningless, because you could just swap them out really at any time. They had no real agency. They were just kind of like, here's your skills, you should probably use them, and beyond that they just didn't didn't care about it. They didn't feel fun. They felt kind of just underwhelming. And considering your skill usage is the worst, wow. I always forget to turn off the chat in this game, because I am playing online because they recently had online capabilities installed in this game. It wasn't there to begin with. This was largely an offline experience for the bulk of its early access period, but they recently put it on, and now every time I start the game I forget I have to turn chat off because I have no interest to talk to anyone. I play online just in case one of my friends who are also in ARPGs ever decides that they want to play, because they are separate. Like, you can make characters for online play, but those are not the same characters for offline play, if that makes any difference. But I really, really love the skills having their own skill trees, so you can really customize how you want to play. A friend of mine, I was telling him about this game, and he was, you know, he's a big Path of Exile fan, and he finally broke down and bought this game, and this thing that he said that really kind of took him aback, that he enjoyed, was that he played the game with one skill. Just one. There was no reason to use anything else. He created a character build to play exactly the way he wanted. And, you know, because there's, in addition to the skills I'm using, these 4 or 5 skills or whatever, there's a whole litany of skills to be used. And, you know, you can just play with what you want to play. Because as you can see, there's fireball, there's ice stuff, teleport. Like, I'm just using these 5. I could use, you know, any combination of these I wanted. I could use an entire conglomeration of skills that had no business being anywhere near, you know, anyone in far as a certain playstyle is concerned. It's like, you could play as an idiot using the worst conglomeration of skills ever, but, you know, nobody's gonna stop you if you do that. And that's kind of the best thing. I love when games let you do what you want to do, even if it's not a great idea. Now, to be fair, Path of Exile does that as well, but, like, to a way bigger degree, to the point where, like, I find myself playing the game for, you know, like a week, and then realizing at the very end of, like, the gameplay cycle that my character is garbage and literally cannot progress in the game any further. Because Path of Exile has a very strange endgame system where you kind of use pieces of maps to create other maps with all kinds of modifiers and effects, and it's basically like loot farming, but for end game farming as well. It's really weird. I like it, but I don't think I've ever made a character that was successful in the end game. Like, I've had characters beat the game, get all the way to the end, beat the last boss, and be like, oh, that was fun. And then be like, okay, let's do like the end-to-end game content. And it's like, hey, no, you can't do that. Your character's nowhere near ready for that. It's like, that's a shame. But aside from all that, you know, this game kind of stands up there really high on the list of all the ARPGs I played over the years. Like I said, I grew up playing Diablo 1, and Diablo 1 with, you know, even with all of its flaws, and there were a lot in Diablo 1, I couldn't shake how awesome the scenery was, how cool the concept of the story was, and just the gameplay was fun enough. It was very difficult and clunky and hard to really get into. But once you did, it was serviceable and really lend itself to the rest of the game style. Now, Diablo 2 was much the same, but even better kind of deal, and I love Diablo 2. I didn't even get a chance to play it until it had been out for like 5 to 6 years, because I didn't have a computer that could run it. And Diablo 2 was one of those games that, like, I believe every one of my friends had 1 to 3 copies of Diablo 2 over the years, because you would play it and you'd love it. You'd play it for like maybe 6 months, maybe a year, and then you'd uninstall it and you'd never play it for another couple of years. But then you go to reinstall it and you didn't have the discs were missing, and you needed the CD keys, which were on the disc slots that the discs were being held in, and once you lost those, it was easier just to go down to like Electronics Boutique, spend $20 and get another battle chest with the expansion. So I had a lot of fun with Diablo 2, and then, you know, I kind of didn't really play much of these games for a long time. There were, you know, millions of knockoffs of these games. You know, over the years I've played many games that were trying to be Diablo 2, but were objectively terrible. A few of them that comes to mind would be like the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Now that was awful. As much fun as it was equal parts awful and good, but at the end of the day it crashed a lot, and I lost save progress more than once playing that game. Another one was, I want to say, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Did not enjoy the first one. The second one was serviceable enough, but again, it was just clunky. Very chunky, it could have been a lot more fun had it been, you know, put out on a PC, or just, I don't know, maybe it had a little more tender loving care behind it. I'm not sure what it was short on, but it was short on something. And then kind of went from that. I kind of stayed away from the ARPGs after a while, just because there wasn't really any good ones. And then a friend of mine told me about Path of Exile, and that was a lot of fun. There's just so much going on in Path of Exile, and it's free. Yeah, you always got to keep in mind that while I have complaints about Path of Exile, it's a free game. And like a free huge game. It's not a small game. Now, the only problem with a game being large like that is that, you know, you get too big and certain things just stop making sense after a while. You get a character build that's so complex, so convoluted, that it's totally removed from what you wanted to do at the start. The Path of Exile's problem is really, you have a character idea in your head that you want to play as, so you start making that character, and then you realize like 10 hours in that there's no possible way that will survive or be of any viability come the end game. So you basically like, oh, this character's useless, and you delete it. And you just like, let's try again with this character, and you hope that you get gear in between the characters and can put them in a shared stash, and maybe this time through the character won't suck as much. But it was always fun to play Path of Exile, even though after a while it just kept frustrating you. A lot of these games suffer from the problem that in the end game you open a doorway or you turn down a corridor and you get insta-killed. And that, in the end games, that happens a lot. I have a couple of characters in the offline version of this that are near maxed out, and you know, they wreck a lot of face, but every once in a while you get something that they don't have like maxed defenses up for, or they're slightly weaker than something else to it. They just pop like a bubble on a spike. It's just, what's that? Okay, not really sure where I'm going right now. I've done this story many times, but I always forget what the deal with this place is. But we're just kind of here killing mobs. Oh. I do want to also point out that in addition to the skill trees, there's also regular, just character-based, like, skill trees as well that you can get upgrades to. A lot of fun stuff. And I think we just got a point for our static orb, so we should probably upgrade that. Let's hit it with some more tendrils. Tendrils are fun. I don't know what they are, but I like them. They sound good. So after Path of Exile, I decided that, you know, that wasn't really enough. And in between Path of Exile and Diablo 3, I played some Torchlight. Torchlight was fun, and its sequel is obviously better. But I played, you know, a few of the really lowbrow ones that were just kind of okay, but nothing to write home about. But then I eventually bit the bullet and bought Diablo 3 because, you know, as much as I loved... Sorry, my alarm just went off. As much as I loved the story for Diablo 2, I really liked the gameplay more. The gameplay and the scenery were what really drew me into Diablo 2. And when I got in Diablo 3, I felt like it was cartoonized, if that makes any sense. The way I kind of phrased it when it first came out was that it looks like they took World of Warcraft and, you know, used that art style for Diablo, which is hilariously incompetent, to say the least. Diablo's draw with its art style and its like character models and designs was always in the fact that they were very gothic, very depressing. You know, there was nothing good in the world of Diablo. Everything was just on the cusp of being destroyed by evil at all times, really. So when you come in, the characters are big, and the armor and the gear is all hilariously oversized. You're like, what is this? That, and I found that towards the end of Diablo 3, I found myself just not caring about the story. It was so convoluted and just seemed like a bunch of gibberish towards the end of its cycle, and I don't know. It was not for me, to put it succinctly. But I did play it, and it was okay. It was a game, to be certain. It was not a terrible game. I like to use the alliteration that just because something's a good game doesn't make it a good entry into a series. I like to use the comparison for the movie Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. That was a fun sci-fi movie. It was a bad Final Fantasy movie, but it was a fun sci-fi movie. Diablo 3 was a great ARPG, but a bad Diablo game, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of why I'm not playing Diablo 4 at the moment. I did give a little look into the Diablo 2 remaster, but at the end of the day, it's got a shiny new coat of paint, but it's still Diablo 2, and there's no change in that. And I've played enough Diablo 2 to last a lifetime. Hopefully I don't die here. Oh, and we're dead. We are dead. Okay. So that's probably a good place to leave here. Again, I just want to kind of get something out, give you guys a little brief retrospective on my time in the ARPG circle. One thing I do want to mention as well before I kind of call this episode here is that I also had a lot of fun with Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn was a lot of fun. Oh, yeah, I think we broke the UI here. There we go. No, we broke it. All right, well, that's probably a good place to end it there. That being said, thanks for watching this episode today. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, and get subscribed. Let me know down in the comment section below what you thought about my gameplay, my commentary, or anything else in general. That being said, thanks for watching, and as usual, I'll catch you all on the flip side.